below $5 billion that you might be willing to accept in order to reopen the government and get this thing moving forward?
Well, I'd rather not say it. Could we do it for a little bit less? It's so insignificant compared to what we're talking about. You know, I've heard numbers as high as $275 billion we lose on illegal immigration. And here you have a wall where you're talking about to complete, because, again, a lot has already been done. You know, we've been getting money in. Somebody said that we didn't spend the money. Well, we have spent it, but we don't pay contractors before they finish the job. That's one of the other things that Pat and I sort of instituted. We like to have people do the work. So if we're building a wall, we're paying as they build it. We pay it when it's finished. So they do a good job. This way, if they don't do a good job, we don't pay them. So not all of the money has been paid, but the money has been used. So maybe you guys could remember that when you say that I haven't spent the money. We spent the money. We want to finish it up. The $5.6 billion approved by the House is such a small amount compared to the level of the problem. When you see that the Democrats want to give away $12 billion extra, and we're giving away $54 billion in foreign aid. So we give money to countries, but we don't give money to our own country, which is another thing that I've been complaining about, and we're cutting that back. It's very unfair when we give money to Guatemala and to Honduras and to El Salvador, and they do nothing for us. When we give money to Pakistan, $1.3 billion, I ended that. A lot of people don't know it, because they haven't been fair to us. We want to have a great relationship with Pakistan, but they house the enemy, they take care of the enemy. We just can't do that. So I look forward to meeting with the folks and the new leadership in Pakistan. We'll be doing that in the not too distant future. But I ended the $1.3 billion that we paid like it was water. We just pay it to Pakistan. So I ended that. And we ended a lot of other money that's being sent out on a monthly basis and a yearly basis to countries that don't even vote for us in the United Nations. We give them billions of dollars. They don't even vote for us in the United Nations. When we want something to help certain countries, and you know, it's not all about the rich countries, because the rich countries really do take advantage of us because they pay a very small percentage of their military, and they cheat on trade. They take advantage of us on trade. Other than that, they're wonderful, okay? But there are countries that are poor, that we will come. We don't want anything from them. We want to help them. There's some horrible things going on in the world, and we want to help those people. We don't want money from them. We don't want that. We're not looking for that. But when you have massively wealthy countries that have very low military costs because the United States subsidizes them, so they take advantage of us on military. They could easily pay us the full amounts, and they also take advantage of us on trade. So when I speak up, I mean, that's why I got elected. Issues like that, issues like the border. And it would be so easy not to do anything. When they say I'm not popular in Europe, I shouldn't be popular in Europe. If I was popular in Europe, I wouldn't be doing my job, because I want Europe to pay. Germany pays 1%. They should be paying 4%. They're paying 1%. They should be paying even more than that. Other countries pay a small percentage of what they should be paying. So, you know, when I say, I'm sorry, folks, you have to pay up, I shouldn't be popular in Europe. They do a poll. I was at 88%, and now I'm at, you know, very low number. In Europe, I don't care about Europe. I'm not elected by Europeans. I'm elected by Americans and by American taxpayers, frankly. So, you know, I think my relationship, I will tell you, with the leaders of Europe is very good. A lot of them don't even understand how they got away with it for so many years. I'll say to Angela, and I'll say to many of the other leaders, I'm friends with all of them, I'll say, how did this ever happen? And they sort of go like, I can't believe it either. They can't believe it. You know why? Because they had presidents and other people within administrations in the past that allowed them to get away. Like some of them would say, well, no one ever asked us to pay. We have negotiations going on with numerous countries right now to pay a lot of money to the United States for what we're doing for them. I wouldn't say they're thrilled, because they've had many, many years where they didn't have to pay. So now they're going to have to pay. And if that makes me unpopular in those countries, that's okay. But we're doing tremendous service to those countries, and they should at least respect us. They didn't respect us, and that was the problem. Go ahead.
Thank you.
You treat me so nicely, I have to give them a second.
No, I appreciate it, Mr. President. I want to follow. Maybe the military has an angle here, or a possible...
They have no angle. I know the angles. I know every angle. No, they have no angle. The military under past leadership, including for many years, was taken advantage of by other countries, allies and not allies. They were taken advantage of. And our country has to be respected. We're not respected when we do that. When we're taking, when horrible things are happening on trade, where we have barriers put up, where we have tariffs put on, and we open our country up, we just open it up, where cars are sent into our country with virtually no tax, no nothing, and yet they won't accept our cars. When cars are sent in and they pay no tax, but we're expected to pay 25, 40, 50%, and we pay nothing. I'll be honest with you, it's just not in my DNA. I don't know how people allowed that, in my position, allowed these things to happen. And we're not allowing it to happen anymore. I could be the most popular person in Europe. I could run for any office if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I want people to treat us fairly, and they're not. And it's not, there's no angles. There's no angles. There's nothing to do. You know, when a country sends us 200 soldiers to Iraq, or sends us 100 soldiers from a big country to Syria or to Afghanistan, and then they tell me 100 times, oh, we sent you soldiers, we sent you soldiers. And that's 1/100th of the money that they're taking advantage of. They're just doing that to make me happy, or to make past presidents happy. I've heard past presidents, well, they're involved in the Afghanistan war because they sent us 100 soldiers, and yet it's costing us billions and billions of dollars. I mean, I could give you an example where I get along very well with India and Prime Minister Modi, but he's constantly telling me he built a library in Afghanistan. Okay, a library. That's like, you know what that is? That's like 5 hours of what we spend. And he tells it, and he's very smart. And we're supposed to say, oh, thank you for the library. I don't know who's using it in Afghanistan, but one of those things. But I don't like advantage of what other countries have done for the last long period of time is give us some soldiers and then talk about it like it's the end of the world, and we're subsidizing their militaries by billions and billions and billions of dollars, many, many, many times what those soldiers cost that country.
Did you hear about the Mitt Romney op-ed? What's your reaction to it if you heard about it? He wrote an op-ed.
Well, I wish Mitt could be more of a team player. You know, I'm surprised he did it this quickly. I was expecting something, but I was surprised he did it this quickly. And, you know, look, I endorsed him. He thanked me very profusely. It was very nice. But I am surprised because we've done a lot. And he actually says it. I read his op-ed. He said it. You know, he agrees, and I don't think he would be able, I don't think anybody would have been able to do the tax cuts like I did. We got the greatest tax cuts ever. We got Anwar approved in the tax cuts. We got rid of the individual mandate, which essentially is repeal and replace of Obamacare, because that case from Texas should win in the Supreme Court. I mean, it only was kept, Obamacare. It was only kept because of the individual mandate. Now that that's gone, I don't know how you can possibly keep it. So that's repeal and replace. John McCain voted against it. You know, after campaigning for many years, John McCain voted against it. He went thumbs down, and that was the end of that. For many years, it was repeal and replace, and then at 2 o'clock in the morning, he went thumbs down. So I'm a very flexible guy. We were part of that lawsuit, as you know. And a great judge, highly respected from Texas, said the individual mandates out. That means that we should win at the Supreme Court, where this case will go. Now, when we do, we will sit down with the Democrats and we will come up with great health care. Far better. Far better. We'll have everything included. We'll have everything included. Far better, because Obamacare is too expensive. The premiums are way too high, and the deductibles don't exist. I mean, the deductibles, you can't even use it. The deductible's so high, unless you get hit by a tractor, you can't even use it. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. The deductibles are so high. Obamacare is a tremendous failure. But now that we won the individual mandate, and that's it, which, by the way, was by far the most unpopular, it was by far the most unpopular thing in Obamacare. So with Mitt Romney, I'd love him to be a team player. Possibly he won't be. I'm surprised he acted so quickly. I gave him an endorsement. I was happy that he won. In Utah, I have great popularity in Utah. I love the people of Utah. I did something for them that nobody else would have done. That has to do with their parks, as you know. That was a big day, a big thing. And we did that for a very special person who is now going to be retiring after 42 years. You know who I'm talking about. Our great friend, our great senator, who's really a spectacular man. And also for Mike Lee, who really pressed it very hard. So Orrin Hatch and Mike Lee. And the people of Utah really appreciate what I did for them.
Mr. President.
Hundreds and hundreds of miles of park that they'll be able to now use as opposed to not. And so I was surprised at Mitt Romney, but I just hope he's going to be a team player. And if he's a team player, that'll be great. I will say this. If he fought really hard against President Obama, like he does against me, he would have won the election. Does that make sense to you? If he fought the way he fights me, I'm telling you, he would have won the election. But I think he's going to end up being a team player. I think he agrees with many of the things that we've done and many of the things that we have in mind, and we'll see what happens.
Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead, Afghanistan.
in Afghanistan, you have won ISIS in Syria, but in Afghanistan, Taliban is gaining ground. And you mentioned India about it. What role do you want India to
Well, I think India should be involved in Afghanistan. I mean, I'll give you an example. You can talk about our generals. I gave our generals all the money they wanted. They didn't do such a great job in Afghanistan. They've been fighting in Afghanistan for 19 years. General Mattis thanked me profusely for getting him $700 billion. He couldn't believe it. General Mattis thanked me even more the following year when I got him $716 billion. He couldn't believe it because our military was depleted. Now we're rebuilding our military. We're getting, in fact, Pat was very responsible for a lot of the orders for the new F-35 fighter jets and F-18s and all of the things we're doing, including ships and missiles and everything. But General Mattis was so thrilled. But what's he done for me? How has he done in Afghanistan? Not too good. Not too good. I'm not happy with what he's done in Afghanistan, and I shouldn't be happy. But he was very happy. He was very thankful when I got him $700 billion, and then the following year, $716 billion. So, I mean, I wish him well. I hope he does well. But as you know, President Obama fired him, and essentially so did I. I want results.
So India is going to be more security related, or?
We're going to do something that's right. We are talking to the Taliban. We're talking to a lot of different people. But here's the thing, because you mentioned India. India is there. Russia is there. Russia used to be the Soviet Union. Afghanistan made it Russia because they went bankrupt fighting in Afghanistan, Russia. So you take a look at other countries. Pakistan is there. They should be fighting. But Russia should be fighting. The reason Russia was in Afghanistan was because terrorists were going into Russia. They were right to be there. The problem is it was a tough fight. And literally they went bankrupt. They went into being called Russia again as opposed to the Soviet Union. You know, a lot of these places you're reading about now are no longer part of Russia because of Afghanistan. But why isn't Russia there? Why isn't India there? Why isn't Pakistan there? Why are we there? We're 6,000 miles away. But I don't mind. We want to help our people. We want to help other nations. You do have terrorists, mostly Taliban, but ISIS. I mean, I'll give you an example. So Taliban is our enemy. ISIS is our enemy. We have an area that I brought up with our generals 4 or 5 weeks ago where Taliban is here, ISIS is here, and they're fighting each other. I said, why don't you let them fight? Why are we getting in the middle of it? I said, let them fight. They're both our enemies. Let them fight. Sir, we want to do it. They go in and they end up fighting both of them. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I think I would have been a good general, but who knows? But you know what? These are two enemies that are fighting against each other, and we end up going in and fighting. And what are we doing? But I say this, India, great relationship with Prime Minister Modi. He's a great gentleman and a great man, and he's done a fantastic job. He's brought the country together. India, Russia, you look at some of the satellite countries that are extremely wealthy with oil surrounding. I mean, I spoke to some of them. I said to a certain country, very rich country, what would you do if the United States pulled out? Oh, we'd be taken over by the Taliban and terrorists. I said, then why are you charging us when we have to use your country to send product through? Why are you charging us when we send airplanes over your country? We're doing the job for you. Why are you charging us? He said to me, very great gentleman, smart, he said to me, well, nobody ever asked me not to. I said, I'm asking you not to. He said, we will not charge you. And I'm talking about millions and millions of dollars. Flights over his country. But I say to him, what would happen if we weren't here? And he looks at me and he goes, we would be overrun. We could not defend ourselves. And yet he charges us, but he doesn't charge us anymore. Okay, yeah, please, Jeff.
You used the word slowly when you were describing the withdrawal from
Yeah, I never said fast or slow.
What's your timetable? When do you want troops to be out?
I know somebody said 4 months, but I didn't say that either. I'm getting out. We're getting out of Syria. Look, we don't want Syria. Obama gave up Syria years ago when he didn't violate the red line. I did when I shot 59 missiles in, but that was a long time later. And when President Obama decided not to violate his statement that never crossed the red line, and then they did, and he didn't do anything about it. You know, making a threat is okay, but you always have to follow through with the threat. If you're going to make that threat, you can't make a threat and then do nothing. So Syria was lost long ago. It was lost long ago. And besides that, we're talking about sand and death. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about, vast wealth. We're talking about sand and death. Now, the Kurds, it's very interesting. Turkey doesn't like them. Other people do. I didn't like the fact that they're selling the small oil that they have to Iran. And we asked them not to sell it to Iran. But the Kurds, our partners, are selling oil to Iran. We're not thrilled about that. Okay? I'm not happy about it at all. At the same time, they fight better when we fight with them. When we send 30 F-18s in front of them, they fight much better than they do when we don't. And you've seen what's happened. But we want to protect the Kurds, nevertheless. We want to protect the Kurds. But I don't want to be in Syria forever. It's sand, and it's death. And when we kill ISIS, if we don't, now everyone says, oh, then they'll come to our country. Well, that's possibly true, a very small percentage. But you know where else they're going? To Iran, who hates ISIS more than we do. They're going to Russia, who hates ISIS more than we do. So we're killing. And then I read when we pull out, oh, Russia's thrilled. Russia's not happy. You know why they're not happy? Because they like it when we're killing ISIS, because we're killing them for them. And we're killing them for Assad. And we're killing ISIS also for Iran. And just while we're on Iran, because, people don't like to write the facts. Iran is a much different country than it was when I became president. Iran, when I became president, I had a meeting at the Pentagon with lots of generals. They were like from a movie, better looking than Tom Cruise and stronger. And I had more generals than I've ever seen. And we were at the bottom of this incredible room. I said, this is the greatest room I've ever seen. I saw more computer boards than I think that they make today. And every part of the Middle East and other places that was under attack because of Iran. And I said to myself, wow. I mean, you look at Yemen, you look at Syria, you look at every place. Saudi Arabia was under siege. They were all, they wanted Yemen because of the long border with Saudi Arabia. That's why they're there, frankly. But every place was under siege. And I actually asked a question, how do you stop these people? They're all over the place. They had plenty of money. President Obama had just given them $150 billion. He just gave him $1.8 billion in cash. I'm still trying to figure that one out, Mick. Gave him $1.8 billion in cash, plane loads of cash. I mean cash from 5 different countries. You know why from 5 different countries, Jeff? Because we didn't have enough cash in the tri-state area to give them $1.8 billion. So they had to use the currency of other countries. That's the real reason. So with all of that being said, I did something called terminate the horrible Iran nuclear deal, which, by the way, in 8 years gives Iran the legal right to have nuclear weapons, okay? I did it. Iran is no longer the same country. Iran is pulling people out of Syria. They can do what they want there, frankly, but they're pulling people out. They're pulling people out of Yemen. Iran wants to survive now. Iran was a power in the Middle East. They were going to take over the whole Middle East. They were going to take over that was what they wanted to do, and destroy Israel while they're at it. Iran is a much different country right now. They're having riots every week in every city, bigger than they've ever had before. Their currency is under siege, thanks to us. A lot of bad things are happening. When we do all of the things that we've done monetarily to Iran, Iran is in trouble. And you know what? I'd love to negotiate with Iran. They're not ready yet, I don't think. But they will be. But Iran is a much different country right now, Jeff, than it was when I took over. When I took over 2 years ago, Iran was going to take over the Middle East and who knows when, and they were going to have all the nuclear weapons they wanted in a very short period of time because of that stupid deal. When I terminated that deal and then did what I had to do, Iran is a much different country today than it was 19 months ago. That I can tell you.
Just say, though, on the timetable for withdrawing troops, do you think it's...
I think it's just over a period of time, but we're withdrawing. But we're hitting them. We're hitting them very hard. When I met with the generals in Iraq, I said to a couple of the generals, I said, "Why didn't you do this before?" He said, "Sir, our commanders were telling us what to do." I said, "Well, don't you tell them?" "No, sir, we take orders," and they do. You know, they're great soldiers. They listen. I do it differently. I sat around, and after a few minutes, they loosened up and they said, "This is what we should do." But we were supposed to be out of Syria many years ago. If you remember, we went to Syria for some spot hits, and that was 5 years ago, and we never left. I don't want to be in Syria. I go to Walter Reed Hospital, and I see soldiers that are so badly injured and hurt. I don't want that. I don't want it. And I want to rebuild our country. And I want to spend money on our military without depleting it every day. I want to spend money on our country. And that's what's happening. And our military is getting really strong. I mean, I could tell you stories when I first got here about our military that I don't even want to talk about. I don't even want to talk about. And one of the things I've told the secretary and other people, we do these reports on our military. Some IG goes over there, who mostly appointed by President Obama, but we'll have ours too. And he goes over there, and they do a report on every single thing that's happening, and they release it to the public. What kind of stuff is this? We're fighting wars, and they're doing reports and releasing it to the public. Now, the public means the enemy. The enemy reads those reports. They study every line of it. Those reports should be private reports. Let them do a report. But they should be private reports and be locked up, and if a member of Congress wants to see it, he can go in and read it. But for these reports, criticizing every single thing, and even in some cases saying good, perhaps, but for these reports to be leased, to give it out, essentially, forget about the public, given out to the enemy, is insane. And I don't want it to happen anymore, Mr. Secretary. You understand that. We'll look at the reports. Nobody more critical of, hey, it's not my fault. I didn't put us there. But we're getting out, and we're getting out smart, and we're winning. We're winning. Okay? But just to answer your question, over a period of time, I never said I'm getting out tomorrow. I said we're pulling our soldiers out, and they will be pulled back in Syria, and then we're getting out of Syria. Yeah, absolutely. But we're getting out very powerfully. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, would you accept anything less than $2.5 billion?
No, not 2.5. No, we're asking for 5.6. And, you know, somebody said 2.5. No, look, This is national security we're talking about, just like we talk about the military, just like we're talking about Syria or Afghanistan or all these different places. I mean, we spend in Afghanistan more in 1 month than what we're talking about for the wall. Think of that, okay? That's another way. We spend in Afghanistan more money than most countries spend, except a few. Okay, it's ridiculous. What I'm talking about is the $5.6 billion that the House approved. And I have to tell you, the House was very impressive. They stepped up and they went in and they approved. And I'm not holding Nancy to this, but she said, you'll never get the Republicans to vote for it. I never saw anything so beautiful in my life. That spurred them on. The spirit they had. And I'd like Mitt Romney to join in that spirit because, we're doing some great things. We don't need another Democrat. And you know what? I want the Democrats to join in it too. The $5.6 billion is such a small number. Literally, it's a month. It's 1 month in Afghanistan. And we're talking about national security. This isn't just a border. This is national security. This is health and wellness. This is everything.
Does that mean nothing below $5.6 billion?
Well, we're going to see. Look, let's see. Maybe they have an idea. And I talk also DACA, but I just think that we're better off waiting for the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court rules that President Obama was wrong, which they should, because, by the way, if he was right, then I've been given tremendous power. Can you imagine me having that power? Wouldn't that be scary? Right? No, if President Obama is allowed to do what he did on DACA, then I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do on things that, probably a president, as he said, probably a president doesn't have the right to do.
So how long do you think the government's going to stay partially shut down?
Could be a long time, or it could be quickly. Could be a long time. It's too important a subject to walk away from. I was here on Christmas evening. I was all by myself in the White House. It's a big, big house, except for all the guys out on the lawn with machine guns. Nicest machine guns I've ever seen. I was waving to them. I never saw so many guys with machine guns in my life. Secret Service and military. These are great people. And they don't play games. They don't wave. They don't even smile. But I was there all alone with the machine gunners, and I felt very safe, Ben, I have to tell you. They're great people, and there are a lot of them. But I was hoping that maybe somebody would come back and negotiate. But they didn't do that. And that's okay. Look, this is really something that should be bipartisan. And we'll see if it is. I hope it is. I hope it is. Okay?
Mr. President, are you willing to keep the government shut down until the Supreme Court rules on DACA?
No, because I think I think this should be settled. By the way, if the Supreme Court would do a great favor to this country, if they would say the president should not have done that, we will settle this whole thing, including really a big immigration policy, not just border security, which is very important. Because we would do something with DACA. A lot of the Republicans, most Republicans are fine with some deal on DACA. DACA is okay. These are people that have been in the country a long time. In many cases, they don't even speak the language of the country from which their parents came.
So how are you viewing this meeting later this afternoon? Is this, you mentioned Border Patrol coming in. Is this an education campaign?
All this is to tell
issuing demands to
Chuck and Nancy and some others from ICE and from Border Patrol, and also from some local law enforcement, how bad it is, how dangerous it is, and why we need a wall. But they know that. Look, when they say the wall's immoral, well, then you got to do something about the Vatican, because the Vatican has the biggest wall of them all. The wall is immoral. Look at all of the countries that have walls, and they work 100%. It's never going to change. A wall is a wall. The others just, we can have all the drones flying over the people last night as they tried to rush the border. The only thing that stopped them was the wall. If we have drones up there, it's wonderful. We'll get nice pictures.
Well, 5.6 is a small amount compared to the problem. How long are you willing?
It was never 25. By the way, a lot of people thought it was 25 billion, and that was for overall homeland security. That was for much more than the wall. The wall was a piece of that. So, a lot of people said he should have taken the 25 billion. Well, that covered a lot more territory than the wall.
How long are you willing to keep the government shut down then in order to get it?
As long as it takes. I mean, look, I'm prepared. I think the people of the country think I'm right. I think the people of this country think I'm right. Again, I could have done nothing. I could have had a lot easier presidency by doing nothing. But I'm here. I want to do it right. And I'm not only talking here. I'm talking about Middle East problems and other problems and North Korea problems.
Can I just ask Mr. Romney, too, why do you think he'll eventually become a team player? And do you
I don't know that he will. I hope he
expect a
does.
challenge from within the Republican Party?
I don't see it. I think I have the highest rating in the history of. I was just looking at that poll. I think. I mean, I don't know why, but they like me. They say I'm the most popular president in the history of the Republican Party. You see the same polls as I do. A number that is hard to believe considering I never get fair press or good press. How do I have these numbers and I get bad press? Because people see the job we're doing. People see the gasoline is way down. And the reason it's way down is because I called up some of the OPEC people. I say, don't do it. You know, if you look back a few months, gasoline was at $83 a barrel. That was going to be bad. And it was going to 100, and some people were saying 125, Rick. And I made calls. I say, you better let that gasoline flow. And they did. And now it's down to 44. And I put out a social media statement yesterday. I said, do you think it's luck that happened? It's not luck. It's not luck. I called up certain people, and I said, let that damn oil and gasoline, you let it flow, the oil. It was going up to $125. If that would have happened, then you would have had a recession, depression, like we've had in the past when that happens.
That Senator Romney's aware of. Why do you think he's going to come around and become a team player?
I don't know if he's going to become a team player. I hope he does. If he does, I think it's going to be better for him. I think people are very upset with what he did. He hasn't even gotten to office yet. He hasn't even gotten to office. And he was very happy when I endorsed him. So, you know, I don't know what changed, other than we've succeeded in many of the things that I said we were going to do. And let me tell you, we're succeeding in others. We're really succeeding in things that people thought were impossible to do. So I think that Mitt Romney hopefully will be a team player. And if he's not, that's okay, too. Look, I handle it. I mean, I just got rid of, I wouldn't say that. They say they retired. They say that Bob Corker retired. They say that Jeff Flake, wonderful guy. I never even met him, and he's hitting me. He was going to tell people how to win in 2020 because 2016 can't. He wrote a book about it. Didn't work out too well, that book, because we won in 2016 because we didn't want to wait till 2020. So Jeff Flake is now selling real estate or whatever he's doing. He'll probably go to work for CNN. That's my prediction. Bob Corker, unfortunately, I had a good relationship. Then he thought he was going to get some publicity for himself, and his ratings tubed, where he couldn't have come in fourth in the primary. He was going to be a senator. Bob Corker was going to be a senator for another 20 years. And then for some reason, he hit me because he thought it was going to be good publicity. It didn't work out too well. So with Mitt, I hope he's a team player, but if he's not, that's okay, too. I will tell you, we have some great Republicans. And if you look at the way they're standing up for border security, you'd be very proud of them, if you're a Republican or if you're a person that loves our nation. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff.
What are you going to do about those markets?
Are they going to be good? I want to look. We need a little help from the Fed. I hope the Fed is going to be there. But they're going to be good. The trade deals are kicking in.
All right, everyone, remember, we were told this entire cabinet meeting was about an hour and 39 minutes. They did the question and answer portion first, so they're probably going to be what we call re-rack, preparing the tape playback for the rest of the cabinet meeting. We are expecting it here any moment. Meanwhile, there's some camera movement happening, and as soon as things get set back up to the way they should be, we will play the rest of that cabinet meeting right here for you on News Now, which is a part of Fox10Phoenix.com. But they first gave us the question and answer portion. The president talking about the wall, immigration, Mitt Romney following that op-ed. So Again, not really budging from the $5.6 billion. President saying it's actually such a small amount for the border wall. I will clip the entire question and answer portion for you. Just head on over to youtube.com/Fox10Phoenix. You can watch the whole thing, question and answer portion right there. But then I've also done several other clips as well, little individual shorter clips. But again, as soon as the rest of that cabinet meeting tape playback comes back, we'll have it for you here on News Now, which is a part of Fox10Phoenix.com. For those of you just watching for your first time in 2019, Happy New Year and thanks so much for being here.